You are listening to Proof Text, a Glossa House podcast exploring Scripture and all things related to it. New episodes are released daily. For more information, check out glossahouse.com and subscribe to our channels on Spotify and YouTube. Welcome and enjoy.
Shalom and welcome to SLA Insights. My name is Dr. Jennifer Noonan, and we're continuing a discussion of how to apply second language acquisition research to the teaching and learning of ancient and biblical languages. And most recently, I've been talking about reading and reading strategies, the importance of working memory, and especially the phonological loop for reading and how important that is as students process even written language in an auditory form in working memory. The problem, of course, as we've also discussed with the phonological loop, is that it does have some limitations. There's only so much it can take in at a time, and it can only hold in working memory a few seconds worth of language data before it's lost or replaced. So in some previous episodes, I've talked about some strategies for simplifying texts to help get more text into comprehension, into the working memory for acquisition through strategies like a diglot weave. And I interviewed Jesse Schumann, who works with simplified stories. But there's another way to also help your students overcome the limitations or to work within the parameters of the limitations of the phonological loop. And that's through reading rate practice. This type of instruction trains students, pushes them to read at an increasingly faster rate. Now, this seems counterintuitive. You think if you slow down that and read more carefully that you would comprehend more, do better at reading. But an increase in reading rate actually improves fluency and comprehension, and at least part of that is due to the limitations of the phonological loop. If you don't get to the end of your sentence or idea, phrase that you're reading before the phonological loop times out, you've lost it, and you're not going to be able to comprehend that whole piece of text. And the other thing that an increase in reading rate will do is help the student learn to not fixate unnecessarily on words or word parts, which often results in draining working memory, slowing the reading down, and so on. Yes, there's a time for looking at words and word parts. There's a time for analyzing that. But if you're reading for comprehension, which again, comprehension leads to acquisition, if you're reading for comprehension, you need to not fixate on those and be able to keep moving so you can comprehend that whole sentence or at least phrase before moving on. So with reading rate practice, the learner is developing faster and more efficient word recognition skills, further reinforcing vocabulary, and both of those are going to promote reading fluency, comprehension, and even accuracy. So it's helping the students make the best use of what they already know. And the good news is an increase in reading rate can be taught or at least developed with students or yourself if you're going to do this on your own. Now, Paul Nation has written an article called Reading Faster, 2009 in the International Journal of English Studies. And he talks about how to promote this increased rate of reading for students. And he gives a few guidelines for how to go about doing it. The first guideline is that the text needs to be easy enough for the reader to not be interrupted by unknown words, phrases, discourse markers, and so on. Now, again, in previous episodes, I've talked about how to simplify text through diglot weaves, through simplified stories, and that kind of thing. This is where you want to employ that to get that text to the level that your students can read it without being interrupted, as Nation talks about. The second guideline is that the students need to be focused on comprehension, because again, comprehension is the ultimate goal here of reading. And then Nation's third guideline is that the students should receive some sort of pressure to read faster than they would normally. So the procedure, how you go about doing it, once you've set up the text, got it at the level you need it to be, and focusing on comprehension, is you have two potential options here for how to run this activity. First is that the students read the text multiple times, and each reading is timed. So see how long it takes them to get to the end of whatever text it is you've chosen. The results then are recorded in a chart to help motivate the students. Can I read it faster the next time? And comparing from the baseline, how are they doing along the way? Are they getting faster as they go? Another option here then, though, is to have the instructor give a set amount of time to read the text. Might be 30 seconds, might be 1 minute or 2 minutes, depending on the length of your text, and to see how long it takes or how far into the text the student can read in that particular time frame. So in 30 seconds, how many words can you read from this text? Again, with comprehension as the goal. And then within the longer game, within your course, within your semester, a year, however long you're working with the students, is to see over time how long can they do this. So frequently incorporating a quick speed reading practice in your course to help build fluency. So again, this type of practice is going to promote an increase in reading rate and a shift, not just in quantity, but quality. It's going to change the way they analyze the text as they shift from word analysis to automatic word recognition. And that's part of the goal here, is to get them to make that shift so that they can read more quickly, more fluently, and more accurate. It also represents a corresponding decrease in the drain on working memory, which also leads to an improvement in reading fluency and ultimately better comprehension. So if we were to do this for, say, Greek or Latin or Hebrew, how do you want to go about it? How would we approach it? So just a few suggestions, again, drawing on Nation's article and the guidelines he promotes there. A few suggestions if you want to do this in your class. The first thing is you want to choose a text. And I would recommend that you choose a text that is long enough for there to be a noticeable difference from one practice to the next. If you only give a verse or two, you may not notice much of a difference. We're going to be talking milliseconds from one practice to the next. So I would recommend at least a full biblical chapter of text to use for your reading rate practice, so you can notice or observe the differences and hopefully improvements from one reading to the next. The next thing, once you've chosen your text, you want to make adjustments to the text so that it's easy enough for your students to read. And this goes along with Nation's first guideline. You want a text that's accessible, that the students are not going to slow down and stumble over unknown words or unknown forms and that kind of thing. And of course, a full chapter of scripture for a first-year student is going to have plenty of those. So you're going to want to make adjustments. Perhaps create a diglot weave, removing the words they don't know, replacing them with English. Maybe simplifying the text using words, vocabulary, and forms they know. The aim, again, and I've used this number before, the aim in the literature seems to be 95 to 98%. If the students can read and comprehend 95 to 98% of those running words as they're reading, then they should be able to comprehend and acquire. Now, the third step is to time the students as they read. And this is going with Nation's third guideline to push them, to encourage them to read faster each time. And again, two ways of doing it. You can either give them the entire text to read and have them time to see how long it takes to read that entire chapter or whatever you give them, or give them a designated time frame, 30 seconds, a minute, 2 minutes, depending on your passage, to see how far into the text they can read it. And again, this is another reason why you want a longer text. Make sure that they don't complete it in those 30 seconds the first time off the bat. You want them to read partially through it so that the next time they can see improvement. Oh, I read 50 words this time. next time through in the same amount of time, I write 55s. So again, do that. Again, 2 options, depending on how you want to go about it. But then you want them to read it again, at least a second time, if not third or fourth, to see if they can improve, see if they can read faster, read the same passage faster, or read further into the same text, given the time constraints that you have for it. So, again, this is a reading rate practice, training students to read quicker, faster, and more efficiently. And it's just one option for improving fluency and helping students overcome the limitations of working memory, helping them switch from analysis of words to automatic word recognition, which proves to be not just faster, but more accurate, and helping them overcome those few seconds they have in working memory before they start losing what they've just read. So in the next episode, I want to start delving into the various mental processes that are involved in reading, beginning with lower level processes, what it means to read at a lower level, and then building up to the higher level processes involved in reading. So I hope you can join me for the next episode. In the meantime, have a great day.
Interested in growing your ancient language skills but not sure where to start? Glossa House can help. From illustrated readers and short stories to lexicons and grammars, Glossa House offers a variety of resources for beginning, intermediate, and experienced ancient language learners. Head to glossahouse.com today. Glossa House, language resources for the global community.